Key is a business grown, born and bred in Salinas, and they've done incredibly well as they service both the retail and the agricultural channels. I also want to acknowledge right here, Lanini. He's the branch manager for one of the busiest branches for CPS right in Salinas. I'm glad you made it. Like, I know it's a busy time and it's really ramping up. And go Cal Poly Mustang. That's always good as well. Seated to his left, your right, Jim Lipe Jr. 3 generations in the fertilizer, 4 generations in the fertilizer business. Probably one of the fastest growing local fertilizer companies, and they're now in Yuma, I understand, and really done quite a bit, which is great. So thank you for being here, and certainly Keith Day. Keith is on the soil side. He's done a lot over the years. He's quite an accomplished racer, as I understand, out at the Watsonville Speedway back in his days. But outside of that, he runs Gabilan Ag, and they sell a number of landscape products, but more importantly, products to really improve the ground that farmers are working here, not just in the Salinas Valley, but in the region. So I just want to kind of open it up by allowing each of our speakers to just share a little bit about their operation. And I think as the theme of today is kind of where we've been, where we're going, maybe say a few things about what they've observed in this industry. Certainly as investing in ground tends to be the theme moving forward. You can only get so much for so long. So Neil, if it's okay, I'll sort of kick it off with you.
Sure.
Yeah, here, go ahead and come up to the podium.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Neil Anderson. I'm president of Reforestation Technologies International. We used to be in Salinas. We just recently moved to Gilroy and acquired a facility. What we do is produce biologicals. We started in the reforestation business, and that's our name.
That's me, sorry.
Is this?
Yeah, face that way.
Okay. Anyways, is this working?
Okay, keep going.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
How's that?
5, 6, 7, 8.
Better.
Okay. Should I stay farther away?
If you're pointed that way.
All right. Well, look, I can walk on here. Anyways, RTI produces biologicals that are used to enhance plant health in the soil. And
It's not working.
Shit, sorry.
It was working pretty good.
It was until I messed with
Hey, you take over.
bring it away,
it. See if that works.
It's working okay over there.
Okay,
Okay, are we all right now?
you should.
All right, I want to get back to soil biology, but where I would like to start is everybody just had a real nice lunch. And this is always a great spot for a speaker because basically everybody wants to go to sleep, digest their food, and wake up and go home. Well, what's actually happening when you are relaxing and think you're sleeping is that your stomach is full of a lot of biologicals, bacteria, fungi, and other organisms that are breaking down that barbecue. And recently a paper in Nature magazine suggested that every human should be identified as their own ecosystem. That's because there's so many bacteria and other organisms that live in our stomach. Plants don't have stomachs. They have roots. And basically what happens in your stomach happens around a good healthy root system. And that's dominated by a beneficial fungi called mycorrhizae. And that's what we produce. So think of how you digest food, and you think about how a plant should digest its food, and it's through this process of making all the organisms work for it. The conversion of those nutrients into forms that the plant can use. So you haven't heard much about mycorrhizae unless you've been in forestry or mine reclamation. Over the next few years, we hope that it'll become a more common term, and we expect to lead the front in educating and supplying the products. So that's what RTI does. I'm going to hand it over to Lawrence.
Good afternoon, Lanini. I'm the branch manager for crop production services in Salinas. We are a full-service chemical fertilizer company, whereas we write recommendations on pesticides and fungicides, miticides, anything associated that requires a license to write a rec to control insects and diseases in our area. We have 10 pest control advisors that work out of our branch. So basically they're scouting fields and they're licensed to write the recs, and we apply the chemicals as well. Fertilizers, they're coming down the line where they will have to have a recommendation. We're not there yet, but it's a hot subject for the whole state in order to control the nitrates that are in the water systems. The changes that I've noticed, I've been in the business for 20 plus years, and there's always been regulations, and some are more stringent than others. At first it was just a matter of getting the organophosphates and carbamates off the list there because of the being a carcinogen. Now with some of the softer products that have replaced those are kind of coming under fire because they're making their way into the water as well. And we always used to butt our head, hit our head against the wall, saying we're just getting regulated down, and they're making it tough for us to work. But over the years, we've kind of quit fighting it and learned that this is the way it's going to go. And it's usually for the betterment of all involved. Luckily, we've had some good products to replace the ones that were heavy hitters, so it didn't hurt us too bad. More often than not, it's the grower that's impacted the most by the new regulations. Food safety is a big one. Whether it be creating barriers around their ranches or not being able to farm as much of the ground as they'd like to because of buffer zones. They're supposed to use less fertilizer, but in turn, we have to do other things to enhance the fertilizer that's being used, which usually costs a little bit more. But, we welcome the change. I don't know if we welcome it necessarily, but we adapt to the change, and we're there to have the solutions for the growers. That's basically what we do out of crop production services. Now you're going to learn a lot.
Thanks a lot. I'm Lipe Jr. and president of NH3 Service Company, Buzzkill Chemical, Lifeline Trucking. We do full service crop protection, fertilizer application, trucking, blending, mixing. I think we have 10 PCAs and CCAs on our staff between Hollister, Salinas, Greenfield, and Yuma, Arizona, down into Mexico and Baja. All the changes, all the regulations, same thing. We start out looking at the way California's been shutting down businesses and making it hard to operate. Nothing's made here anymore except things that converted organics are made here from we're using the food waste and the corn steep liquor now.
Fish off the Monterey Bay.
Fish off the bay. We get a lot of fish out of Mexico too, anchovy-based fish products. And same as what Lon said about the regulation is, I'm 44, half of my life I couldn't stand it, I was against it, I didn't want anything to change. Our best farmers have been program farmers. The guys having the hardest time were the guys that farmed off of a piece of paper, off a soil sample, off of what the paper said instead of what the plant was telling them. So we've watched this over the years, and now that I actually own all these businesses, I welcome the regulation because it keeps the poor people and minorities and everybody else from getting in and starting up business. It's impossible for most of you to get in the business I'm in. And so for that now on this side of it, I love the regulation because nobody's going to come in here, buy $20 million worth of equipment, start competing against me except these big companies. We compete against CPS, I know Lon, the kids go to school together. Wilbur Ellis over here, these guys are
huge. They're making decisions up in high rises in Canada and San Francisco, and we make them right here in the field. So at one point in my life, it was really scary for us to be involved with competing with these huge corporations. And the other side of it, I thought, well, we're the only ones that can really do what we want to do. And nobody else, no poor guy is going to get in this business, or else everybody would be doing it. So really now, at this point in my career, I welcome the regulation. I enjoy it. I feel sorry for the farmers in the San Joaquin Valley that are going out of business. The water's passing by their ranch, going to the ocean. And so that's what we see. We just see regulations putting people out of business, killing jobs, and our growth rate's been about 300% in the last 7 years. So if everything keeps going the way it is, I'll be fine with it.
Good afternoon, I'm Keith Day. We have a couple different sides to my companies. We have a transportation company. We haul a lot of ag products, construction, liquid dry fertilizers that we supply or we transport for some of our customers here today. So that's one side of our business. The other side is Gabilan Ag Services. We provide compost and soil amendments to a lot of the farmers in the valley, and we're fortunate to be involved with a lot of the major growers. So it's really came a long way over the years, and kind of getting in, learning more about the soil amendments. It seems like it's brought a lot to the industry, and learning more every day, and it seems like it's changing. So it's definitely been a learning process, and I think in the last few years we've all kind of felt the food safety aspect of it. And there for a while it still is, but it was, like Jimmy said earlier on the regulations, it was pretty scary because you're not knowing, you know, if you're going to be in business or not, just because of food regulations and the food safety. But our company had to step up, like a lot of the farmers and customers we deal with, and hire staff and put people on board to maintain that and give you, the growers, all the food safety items that you need to feel good about using compost and the benefits of it. So, you know, in that, we're a full service company also as far as compost and transportation. We manufacture, we haul it, we spread it, apply it. Also do custom blends. A lot of the companies now, it seems like we're using a lot of gypsum, lime, sulfur, some of the pre-plant fertilizers that they're going into some of these blends now that we're able to do, and just basically helps our customer, helps them do a one application. So it, you know, like always, everybody's trying to cut costs and spend their dollar wisely. So you know, we've kind of developed the compost over the years with different customers, different mixes for the row crops, and also the berries, the vines, and the grapes as well. So here, you know, recently we talked about converted organics doing some of the food waste. We've kind of partnered up with Marine and Landfill, MRWD. We did a pilot program a few years ago as far as the food waste portion of it. As we all know, recycling is just the way of our future and the way it's coming down the pipe. So we did a pilot program with them for a few years. They've kind of turned it into more and built spent a few $1 million and put in an anaerobic digester over there at their facility. So where the compost starts, they take some of the methane, convert that into energy. After that goes through that process, I take the compost and further finish it and make more of a true finished compost out of it. And I know it's even hard for me to gather when everybody says food waste or food scraps. It kind of gives you that, well, do I really want that? That's a waste, you know. But so I don't know. It's different. But I wish we could rename it. But it is what it is. So, but you know, there's some benefits. I mean, I think we're having to treat that like any other compost that you really have to take. And with our food safety regs, you know, making a first-class quality product is key for what we have to deal with. More from a nutrient standpoint, and then also from a food safety standpoint. So we've kind of used more of that product in some of the vineyards and different applications like that. We haven't kind of converted that into the row crop or the leafy greens yet. Those are things that we're working on for the future, just to see if the needs are there and food safety and everybody. It's more about education on that part of it, from the receiving side to the customers to everybody along the way. So, like I said, that's going to be an ongoing learning process for all of us, but it's just a way of our future with recycling and what's kind of coming down the pipe now. So, just like I said, thank you for having us. We appreciate it. It's good to get in front of our growers and our customers and try to get face to face, because a lot of times we don't see our customers as much as we'd like to, and try to give them the background of our companies, that what we're trying to provide services for our customers and be here for the future, because as we all see today, just with technology and what's coming down ahead of us, and they talked earlier about what's the last 2 years have brought us and where's the next 2 years going. So it definitely seems like it's going to be a challenge with all the technology coming up, and hopefully it's for the better for all of us. But thank you very much.
Food safety comes up consistently. As growers, we're aware that we run the risk of contaminated product reaching to a consumer, there being a lawsuit, something huge that blows up. Earlier today, we heard from our Chief Deputy Ag Commissioner, and she spoke specifically about record keeping. And as it relates to pesticide, what's applied, how much, when, what's it, 280 pesticide specialists that are working on behalf of California agriculture at the county level. And the move is to work towards a cloud-based repository. The follow-up to that was somebody in the audience said, well, what's this mean? Will the consumer have access to this? As we know, on our ranch or on the farm, consumers more and more want to have a say in where their food came from, what practices, what was involved. And I think it represents kind of an interesting opportunity, but in many cases a threat to doing business. And I want to put to our panel, how are you coping with a move towards greater data collection, reporting of data? You could call it regulation, but you record and report data for your customers. In the case of a grower, or in the case of even a retailer. How are you handling that? What's it taking resource-wise? How prepared are you? And maybe a few words on sort of what you think about it.
Thanks, Steve. Because we produce biologicals, and there's other nasty organisms out there like E. coli, Salmonella, there are obviously concerns. In our production facility in Gilroy, we use a very extensive quality control procedure. We have our own in-house lab to make sure that anything we produce does not carry any organisms that we don't want. We also use third-party labs to assess the quality and make sure that we're doing everything correctly. And all it takes is one little problem in one corner of one field with one crop of lettuce or spinach, and guess what? That information is going to go out right across the world, and if it happens in the Salinas Valley, it hurts every one of us. So from our point, the most important thing to do is to be diligent, keep your quality control, and yes, keep your records. And we exceed what is requested by the California Department of Agriculture.
Well, record keeping covers a lot of different aspects of what we do. As far as food safety goes, we document everything down to the last chemical that the individual drivers and applicators are trained on. There's something called global gap. There's many different forms of food safety that are out there that enables a contamination in a retail or wherever down the food chain to track all the way back to, you can track back to which tractor was used, which applicator did it, and they can check the equipment calibration equipment on the tractor. You can check the training on that individual driver that he's been trained on, hygiene, and he's up to date on all